So it was 2009, and I received a phone call. I had just started my own company, and I received a phone call and learned that Vanity Fair wanted to do an article, feature article on me. I said, yes, count me in. Didn't even ask what it was about. I thought, oh, what an opportunity to share with the world what my team and I are doing. We're using these social communication channels to help brands and individuals humanize their brand, own their voice, and it's the ultimate equal opportunity space. Yes, I'm in. I proceeded to learn that there was a concept to this article. It was going to be called America's Tweethearts. I thought, okay, and there would be other women as well who had millions of followers on Twitter like I did. They would be highlighting us. So I did what everyone else would do. I went to the gym. I went to the gym because there was a photo shoot coming up, right? I went to the gym, did the interview, did the photo shoot, and I waited. I had no concern about what was going to be printed in that article. I thought, okay, I nailed that one-on-one interview. I shared with the journalist exactly what we were doing, pioneering through this space, analyzing online ecosystems and conversations, and coming up with these new algorithms to measure engagement. I think she might have asked me how to spell the word algorithm, but I'm not quite sure. And I was very excited. What I was concerned about was how I would look. Because when we showed up that day to the photo shoot, we were asked to bring our own outfits. Spent a lot of time thinking about that, worrying about that. I brought mine, but they also had another outfit for us to wear as well. So the article comes out. Tiger Woods and his debacle was on the cover. This was 2009. You know this isn't going to end well, right? So he's on the cover, and I search through and start reading what was written. And immediately, I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe that I spent an hour and a half speaking to this woman, and what she did really was color us in a picture that made us look like we were basically tweeting all day, combing each other's hair, maybe watching some American Idol, and she referred to us as twelebrities. So I thought, darn it, why did she do this? Well, the 6 of us women had a lot of following on Twitter. So as soon as this article came out, the conversation started. Vanity Fair readers were upset. They were furious. They came, we had this tribe behind us, and there were more conversations and there was more engagement around this article within the magazine than there was about the feature article on Tiger Woods. So I did some analysis, started studying the conversation, which is what we do, and shared the results in a response. I wrote a response. What I haven't shared with you yet is what we wore. We were twelebrities in trench coats. So that's what we saw when we opened up that magazine. And I kept thinking, darn it, I know I shouldn't have put that on. I should have put my foot down, heels, trench coats, what was I thinking? And then I started thinking, wait, why can't we wear that? Is that okay? And can you be a successful business entrepreneur, female, and look like that? So I was frustrated, but my business was growing, and I didn't have time to have this conversation anymore. I was more concerned about growing the business and keeping my head down. And then I found over the next few years that the question kept coming up. Well, how did you do it? How did you do it, Amy Jo? You know, you wrote a New York Times best-selling book and have your own company, and how did you navigate through this male-dominated world? And I would say, how did I do what? I don't really get the question, and I don't have any answers. And pretty annoyed by the question, actually. So what I did is I started to listen. After that, continued to listen to conversations about women in business and conversations about success and women. And I started to study feminism. I really thought that feminism was just about these women that were like burning their bras in the 70s, and I really didn't have any clue what it was really about. When people used to say, I'm studying or I'm doing women's studies, I used to think, well, how can I take the men's studies class? Because I don't really get this. I don't understand. But I started to learn. I started to learn there was a lot more about this. And when people say, how did you do it? And I would say, how did you do what? You see, I come from a family with an older brother who used to have a Red Ryder. And at times, my survival mechanism, when he would cock shish kebab skewers into that Red Ryder and chase me around, it was to either outsmart him or do my best at not worrying about the fact that I was a girl. So I didn't understand that question. As I listened and started to kind of dig into this more, I started learning about some of the things that happened. Billie Jean King, when she actually did her match, her Battle of the Sexes match against Bobby Riggs and won, female beat the male. Divorce rates in America spiked. And I thought, wow, this is fascinating, this feminism stuff. This is fascinating. That's what empowered women. And what more? What more? And I started to continue to read, but then you fast forward 40 years from Billie Jean King beating Bobby Riggs, and we still see that only 4% of CEOs, Fortune 500 CEOs, are women. But 2/3 of minimum wage workers are also women. So these numbers just don't seem to be gaining momentum like I feel that they should. And I'm not quite understanding what the deal is. Some people say, you know, this is a generational thing. You just kind of need to wait it out. And I'm thinking, wait it out? Look at Warren Buffett. He's not exactly a spring chicken, but he's arguably one of the most intelligent businessmen in the world, and he thinks actually pretty progressively. He believes that women are a major reason why we will do well. He acknowledges that women have been marginalized, and there's been a large amount of talent that has been ignored. So he's thinking progressive. Why aren't we all? And if we take a step back and ask, why do we care? Why do we care? What's the WIFM? What's in it for me? What's in it for society is that we are not operating at full capacity. There's a lot of resources that we are not using. So why wouldn't we want to use 100% of our resources? There are plenty of things going on in this world that need help and resources. Why wouldn't we want to use 100%? In some cases, we're using 50% or less. I recently went to Ethiopia with an organization called Charity Water. And it was one of the most epic trips of my life. I learned a lot more about the water crisis and learned that about 800 million people today still do not have clean drinking water. I met this woman who carried her clay pot on her back. She walked miles each day barefoot to go fetch dirty water for her family a few times a day. This problem is completely solvable. So why aren't we using all of our resources? All of our resources even meaning our intellectual capital. Another quick story from Ethiopia. This photo is a photo I took with some children who had never seen their own reflection before. They don't have any mirrors. So I brought out my iPhone and showed them what their faces looked like. And that's the first time they ever saw themselves. We're standing there, we were at a school, and a bunch of the teachers had decided to play a game of soccer. And a bunch of the people I was traveling with had decided to play against them. They were all men on the field. And I have no business playing soccer. I can play some different sports, but soccer is not one of them. And I thought to myself, you're going to have to do it. You have to step out there and show these women, these girls, that they can step out there on that playing field too. It's okay. There's a book called The Athena Doctrine, and the authors of the book surveyed 64,000 individuals among 13 nations. And what they found is that 2/3 of the people agreed that the world would be in a better place if men thought more like women. They also showed that countries who have higher levels of feminine thinking and behavior have a higher per capita GDP and quality of life. So why aren't we, if this is an example of leadership, why aren't we using this more? Still, women earn about 77 cents for every dollar that men earn. And I could go on and on about the stats. Last year, $29 billion, actually $24 billion, were invested from angel investors, yet 4% of that, only 4% went to women. And again, I could go on and on about the stats, but that's not what this talk is about. What this is about is we all know that some women are breaking through. So how are they doing it? How can we figure this out? What is the formula? What are those characteristics? Find a way to learn, make it teachable, implement this into our society, and accelerate the process of learning, accelerate the process of women breaking through. So how do we do that? There was a book called Good to Great, written by John Collins. And he's used a research methodology which has allowed him to prove what makes companies go from good to great. And it's an amazing book. He basically shows here are the specific characteristics after studying many, many companies that have surfaced, that have allowed them go from being good and hockey stick to going to be great. So I'm on a mission to conduct a similar study, but with women breaking through. So what is it that certain women have, characteristic-wise, that allows them to break through? And how can we get that implemented and shared to other women and to other young women to accelerate the process of women breaking through, to see that hockey stick effect? And you might be thinking, well, define breakthrough. That's probably the hardest question and the hardest part of this study. Still working on the methodology right now, and the study is in its infancy. But what I can tell you is that everybody has a different opinion of what breaking through means. Breaking through to some is a happiness quotient. Breaking through to others means other factors. So that's what we're working right now, and that's why we need to have the conversation with each other, is what is breaking through, so we can identify the right women to interview and to be a part of this study. So I've been talking to many women and plan to talk to many more. All types, from the CEOs and the celebrities that we see in the headlines to small business entrepreneurs, people in my community, even to Olympians. And in some cases, even asking men what their opinion is as well. And I'm starting to accumulate some consistency. Again, definitely at its infancy, this research is, but as of now, at the moment, some trends are starting to emerge. So what is the renegade factor? A few of the themes I'm starting to see are shared here. Competitive. So there's a sense of being competitive and not this stereotypical, evil, bulldog, aggressive competitiveness. It's more about there's a difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. And you can be competitive with a team. So to lead with a sense of consensus among leadership versus playing against each other is what I'm noticing about this word competitive coming up. Here's a quote from someone I interviewed. It's Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter. And she said, "I believe I can do anything I decide to do. I'm not sure where that comes from. Maybe it comes from my belief that I'm competing only with myself. I know there's no one tougher to beat because I have ridiculously high standards." Confidence. This would have been my number one guess, but I'm starting to hear this a lot. Confidence. And not necessarily confidence that isn't authentic, but a sense of being able to take a compliment, being able to own it, and being able to celebrate. Julie Foudy, who's a soccer player, Olympian, speaking with her, and she said, you know, we would celebrate our small victories as much as we would celebrate our big ones, and that's part of what made us a great team. So that sense of confidence and not being afraid to fail. Coachable. So what does that mean, being coachable? And really, if you look at individuals who are coachable, they thrive and they seek that criticism and that feedback. It's not just because they need that, but they're so focused on improving that they want that, they know that that's the fuel to get them to the next step, personally. Also, they have that ability to have those moments of learning, those moments of humility and those moments of self-reflection. The people who are most coachable usually become the best coaches. And if you notice, there is a common theme here underlying that revolves a little bit around sports. Being fearless also. Fearless in terms of not afraid to take risks. Fearless in terms of being inspired and motivated by the fact that being fearless allows us to be free. That's what I'm hearing. And two last things. I keep hearing that being a woman is not an issue. It's a non-factor to many of the women that I'm interviewing. And the no is a sense of inspiration when they hear that word no, and a sense of motivation. So have the conversation with your peers, identify characteristics that are trending in terms of the women breaking through, share, teach, and empower. Let's recirculate that into our curriculum and accelerate the process of women breaking through. Now, you know what they say about cats and curiosity. I've kind of put myself out here yet, and I am asking you to join me in having the conversation. You see, this is not about doing good. This is about doing what's right to evolve our society for equal contribution for our world.